was born in Kenya, and I also lived in Zanzibar, and my parents were from Zanzibar. Now, growing up, the word abuse is never in the vocabulary. I've never heard of it. I've never known to be existing at that time. And I always, when I was growing up, asking myself, like, how do people, when they talk, when they, when the way they think, the way they behave, how is that the process? How does it make sense? And why I say this, because at the age of 13, I lived with my strict grandmother, as I would call her. And she used to say this thing about us children, and I couldn't understand it. So she used to say, you you came to this house because you killed your father, and now you were trying to kill me. And I couldn't understand, because I just started living there only a few months, and I was like, I thought as my grandma, you wouldn't say those things. So, and I looked at her like, is it a joke? It doesn't feel like it's a joke. And so that was like bringing something in me to, why is that? That's the first thing. And another thing is that women at that time, when I was growing up, were not seen as, importance. They're not looked at as they are worthy to be in this life and make something for their own. So abuse, it was physical, mental, verbal, financial. But like I said, I didn't know at the time. So when my uncle asked me to go to his house one day, because our house is like one big compound with two houses. So my uncle's house is next to our house. And my dad died at when I was 9 years old. So they're looking after us, and we are about 8 children. And so when my uncle asked for me to visit him, he had a guest. And at that time, I didn't know anything about this guest. All I know is that my uncle usually called me when there's foreigners, and because I love speaking English, and at the time also I love speaking French. So I would communicate for him, and we'll build that relationship. But this man was like, he speaks a little bit Swahili, and he looks like somebody who's from, maybe was born there. And so I was a bit skeptical around him, and he will ask me so many personal questions. Never had anyone come and ask me personal question. And so I felt very like, why is he asking me these questions? And my uncle would be like, don't worry, I'll answer for you. Or, if when he asked me about my picture, oh, don't worry, I'll give it to you. And I thought that was very weird. So I looked for any kind of, to get out of that house, and I got out. When I went to my own house, I had people screaming, oh my God, he said yes, he said yes. I'm like, who said yes? What's going on? And after a few days, my grandmother brought us all in her room, and she said to me, Barke, you're getting married. I'm like, no, I'm not getting married. And she slapped my face. I was like, And she said again, Barke, you're getting married. And the words just came out of my mouth. No, I don't want to get married. And again, I got a slap on my face. After 2 slaps, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not going to say anything now. And after that, I was like, you know what? If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Let me just enjoy it. I enjoyed my marriage, my wedding day anyway. And then straight away, I had to fly to UK. And that's how I came to United Kingdom in 2000. And in my marriage, he was 20 years older than me. In my head, I was like, oh my God, this man will understand me. This man will have patience. This man will care for me. I will learn so much, It's totally the opposite. So again, I experienced abuse in my marriage. It wasn't physical, thank God, but it was emotional. It wasn't physical. It was financial, and it was also verbal. But because he knows the law in United Kingdom at that time, and he used to say to me, like, I'm not hitting you. You should be grateful. And this is not abuse. So I believe him in that way because at the time there was no law for verbal abuse or emotional at the time. And so I was like, you know what? I was the best wife, as in my opinion, my own eyes, and my family, as some of them did see me. And I did the best that I could. But then after that, I felt like you can't take, as there's a say, like you can't take a horse or donkey to the water if they don't want to drink it. And I was like, you know what, I can't force this marriage. So I have to come out of this marriage. And within coming out of that marriage, it was very hurtful, and I became a single parent. And after that, being a single parent, because when I told him I want to get a divorce, he taught me a biggest lesson. He actually didn't pay anything for nearly a year for the house. I'm talking about utility bills, rent, everything else. And so I didn't have a job at the time, so I couldn't even pay anything. And so I had to go bankrupt at that time. And through this, I changed my career because first I was working in catering, and then I changed my career. I became a beauty therapist. And after the 1.5 years doing beauty therapist, I just to get myself out of this bankrupt financial situation, I was my whole hand, like from my tip of my fingers to my elbow, is just swollen, and it was really, really bad. So even the doctor said to me, you need to change your career. And so I was like, you know what I have to really do is go back to what I want to do in my life. And I wanted to be a psychiatrist, but then looking at the length of it and what needs to be done, I was like, nah, that cannot be done. So I thought, okay, what can I do? And so I went to start my undergrad for psychology. I did clinical and community psychology. And because my aim is clinical doctorate, because of what I want to do in my life. And so before I finished my undergrad, I became an author and also a co-author in other books as well. And then I did a postgraduate course as well, just finished that. And now I'm thinking of as aspiring clinical psychologist in the future.